That's it for accounting concepts. And now we have one example here. And here we have Emirates Group has reported total assets of 17 billion, total liabilities of 14 billion. And so what would the balance sheet equation for Emirates be? Just keeping in mind that we have our assets equal to liabilities plus owner's equity. And so what do we have for Emirates? We have 17 billion of assets, and we have 14 billion of liabilities. Great. We have a or owner's equity. So yeah, so they have all these assets which are financed by liabilities, relatively small amount of owner's equity. So that's not uncommon for an airline. They get lots of assets that are leased or borrowed or whatever, relatively small owner's equity. Okay. So they would have owner's equity of $3 billion. And let's say they borrowed $2 million from the First Gulf Bank. What would that do? Yeah, so if we say instead of 2 million, we said 2 billion, we'll make it easier. So we'll say 2 billion borrowing. So we have a plus 2 here. And then cash, we have a plus 2 here. So we'd end up with 19, 16, and still a 3 there. Yeah. Okay. Pretty straightforward. Questions about that? All right, so as I said, we're going to go through some more advanced examples and kind of build up that upstart company into something that is more like a real company, not just some equipment and some cash. Now, next thing is we have Starbucks annual report, which is in the resources tab. So this you can look at yourself, and what you see is for Starbucks, their annual report looks a lot like the 10K. So the annual report is like a nice little Starbucks logo, and then the 10K is under it. Yeah, so it's also a 10K, and it goes through different parts of it. We already talked about this a little bit. It talks about the business, risk factors, legal proceedings. In the U.S., every firm is supposed to disclose mine safety disclosures. So even though Starbucks has nothing to do with mines, they're still legally required to have this mine safety disclosure. It's just a regulatory artifact. Okay. And so on, and then all the financial statements. We looked at this before, and we want to know the amount of cash, including cash equivalents, total assets, total liabilities, and total stockholders' equity. And we want to compare the size of the liabilities to the stockholders' equity. So kind of like what we're doing here by saying, for Emirates, the liabilities were 16 billion eventually versus 3.